Thank you so much for joining us and your patience. Welcome to BMC Exchange 2022, and to hear us talk about this exciting topic of fostering inclusivity and supporting ESG initiatives through design. ESG is such a hot topic. And here as the Autonomous Digital Enterprise, we always want to talk about how we can leverage our technology and tools to help you on your journey. So with that, let me tell you a little bit about our corporate social responsibility. Under that umbrella, we have our philanthropic work, our diversity, equity, and inclusion, our sustainability, and running through that, ESG is our metrics and how we look at ourselves as an organization, all rooted in the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. What you'll hear from us today and our team is around inclusivity in your stack, sustainability in your stack, as well as accessibility, all really important topics. And I'm so thrilled to share with you who you're going to be hearing from today. You're going to hear from our AVP of Web Marketing, Mark Breeze. You're going to hear from our VP of R&D, Srini Pakrasamy. You're going to hear from our Senior Solutions Principal, Des Sanders. And you're going to hear from one of our field CTOs, Craig Cezanne. And we're each going to talk about different aspects of ESG and how you can take those considerations into your stack. So without further ado, I'm going to let Craig tell us all about what he's hearing in the market today and let you start to think about how maybe that's impacting you and your organization. So Craig, take it away.
Yeah, hi everybody. Like Wendy said, I get a chance to talk with a lot of customers and talk about what their strategies are as they approach a lot of things from an ESG perspective. And I think something that's been really sticking in my mind lately is how culture eats strategy for breakfast at the end of the day. So, if we think about a lot of our solutions and how we approach them being cost effective or operational efficiencies, all things being equal, the culture side of ESG really begins to come out in these conversations. I was just talking last week with a large media company out of New York, and they were talking about shutting down 3 data centers. The cost savings of that alone, the efficiency savings of that alone had to be massive, but none of the news media really talked about any of that. The only place that they actually talked about what they were doing from their perspective was on their sustainability website. And it just speaks to the way that we're making and approaching decisions with our customers today. The other huge topic that we're talking around is around automation and the discussions of the experience that we want our customers or our employees to have. And much of that is based on the fact that they need to retain the talent that is out there. It's harder and harder to keep the talent in place, especially from a technology perspective, but it really goes across all of the job titles across your company. And it's back to relating really to your customers and what their expectations are. So I think inclusivity becomes really important when we talk about automation today. The State of DevOps report for 2022 just came out, and there was 5 pages dedicated to cultural and inclusivity aspects of what it means to actually get the talent and keep the talent. So it becomes really important as we're talking to our customers about how much can you automate and what used to be almost a business case or a value case for how efficient can I make those people so that I can reduce my headcount. It's almost become the opposite conversation of how can I make their jobs better and have them and allow them to do more so that they stay in their seat. And automation really becomes king today. I love that Wendy talked about the metrics aspects of what we're doing, which has really thrown a lot of IT organizations into the mix of conversations, because I think it was Peter Drucker that said you can't improve what you can't measure. And so instead of just greenwashing these things, our customers are being held to the accountable standards that Wendy talked about from the UN standards as well. So these things are beginning to show up in a lot of the RFPs that we're doing. Customers don't just want to talk about it. They want to be able to measure it and move it forward. So, everyday conversations come into play when I think Jason Andrews in our kickoff session said that 86% of people are willing to walk away from their jobs if the ethical standards don't match their own. So, whether that's shutting down data centers, whether that's driving inclusivity, whether that's automating for job fulfillment, those are the conversations that we're having, as opposed to cutting costs and getting rid and making your workforce smaller. I look forward to continuing to work and learn from our customers, and really learn from what BMC is doing in this space as a leader, whether it's measuring, whether it's standards, and really just helping make good decisions for not only our customers and organizations, but really for the world. So if you guys have any questions, I know, Wendy, is that anything I missed on there on why ESG matters?
No, well, I absolutely love all the things you covered, because there's certainly things that you and I talk about consistently. One of the largest ESG materiality issues that we talk about in ESG, specifically in tech, is that human capital, or people. That is the highest area of risk for any organization in ESG. And so our ability to not only retain our talent by automating everywhere to give them more strategic opportunities to find purpose-driven work in their current organization, but also to help them become a part of how they can be embedded in this purpose organization, whether it's joining an employee resource group, or like doing sustainable climate action month and sustainable living, and being able to also attract talent. We know the buying center of our products, and really all products in the world now, 76%, or I think it's now over 80% of them, are millennials. These are the people making purchase decision power. They have the largest purchase decision power. And so it's so important to be able to demonstrate in the market, internally and externally to them, to attract and retain them, to include them in your products. And also we include our clients on the journey too now. There's so much cross collaboration in our BMC ecosystem now for us all to work together as a human collective, as a BMC ecosystem, to help support sustainability goals, sustainable development goals that we all talk about. So you absolutely nailed it. And it's always so great to talk to you about what we're hearing from our clients in the market, and then how our products or your technical considerations can help them on their journey to become not only an autonomous digital enterprise, but to support them in their ESG objectives and goals. So I'm actually going to turn it over to Des. Craig, did you have anything else to add?
Sorry, I was just going to say, one of the last sessions that I got to watch for the VIP exchange portion of it had 4 customers on stage that were talking about the innovation that they were doing. Every one of their talk tracks went back to culture and retaining talent, whether it was mainframe solutions, whether it was workload automation solutions, or whether it was service and operations management. It was all about attracting and retaining the talent, and really going through the organizational change management and how BMC is partnering with them to do that. So, it's certainly the conversation that's happening everywhere right now.
Yeah, I mean, ESG considerations touch every part of your business, from product to marketing to IT to people operations to facilities. And so these insights have just been incredible and are helping us too. And I can't wait to hear from Srini, because I know he mentioned some customer conversations he's been having. Des, tell us, what are some things we should be thinking about when we look at our own tech stack, and solutions that we could implement immediately, a year from now, and just things to think about as we look at supporting RSG objectives and reporting back on those measures?
Yeah, no, thanks, Wendy. So, a couple of things we need to think about in the area around ESG specifically is, if you start with security. Now, traditionally, security, it doesn't seem to be too much of a fit until you start to think about governance, because obviously security and governance, they go hand in hand. But what's starting to happen though is we're starting to see security becoming more and more involved in the social aspect of ESG as well, because it affects both you and me as well as the business, right? So if someone has a data breach, from a corporate perspective, it obviously ruins your confidence your customers have in you. It could ruin your brand. There's a whole host of bad things can happen to you. Obviously, you can get fines and so on. But as a consumer of your service, there's a lot more other repercussions that could happen, right? I could end up having emails coming out to me looking for phishing. They're subject to additional spam emails, or even fraud resulting in the data that was collected from that breach, right? So it's increasingly more important to have a sort of secure environment, and through doing that, in order to secure that environment, you need to obviously make sure that you've got a really good security practices around vulnerability management and so on, right? To make sure that they can do that. The other thing that customers are talking to us about is they're saying that, you know, they when they talk to, when they want to engage with you, they're starting to think about how I engage, you know, how I engage will be based on what your actions are, what you're doing to reduce your carbon footprint. Are you going to, you know, try and help the world in the future? And, you know, that's a big topic at the moment. And, you know, in fact, there's a lot of people that I talk to that are actually in that space. Now, that's you know, if you think about greenhouse gases and carbon footprint, there is a lot of data out there already today. And you need to start thinking about how I can use that data that I've already got to reduce my footprint. The first place you can think about is if you look at your data centers. Your data centers today, you know, you've got servers running, you've got, you know, HVAC systems, you've got electricity, you've got all of these things in there generating carbon emissions. And the first place to look at is, well, how can I use those monitoring and sensors in that environment to figure out where I've got carbon footprint, and how can I use that data to then think about optimizing that infrastructure to reduce that footprint. Right? So, you know, you could be thinking about you know, shift to the cloud. You could be thinking about right scaling, right sizing your environment, maybe shrinking it down, moving it to more efficient premises through the centers. The other thing you can start thinking about is, you know, data centers are great, but in the context of a large organization, it's only a small portion of the problem. You need to start thinking about utilization when it comes to transport, when it comes to supply chain, and so on, right? And what that means is I've got to start collecting data from other tool sets, other applications, other businesses and other industries. And that can be very tricky. Now, the reason that's tricky is because obviously it's very complex sort of data sources. Now, you know, the idea with BMC is to start leveraging our current tool sets that we've got, the likes of Control M, to go and automate, orchestrate these data pipelines to ingest all this data into a data lake where we can then correlate, we can optimize, we can understand, and then output on or some suggestions on how to right size your greenhouse gases. Right. Now, the big thing to remember is what I've got a way of understanding what I've got through ingesting this data. I've got some suggestions on how I can potentially move forward and reduce my carbon footprint in time. But I also want to have a way of looking into how I can forecast. Am I actually going to achieve my goals? And if I'm not going to achieve my goals, what are the steps I need to take in order to achieve those goals? So you need to have some methodology of forecasting your carbon footprint going forward into 2030, 2035 to understand that.
That's fantastic. Yeah, I know that we've talked about some of these, from security to greenhouse gas analytics to the ESG reporting and bringing all of that data in to a tool like Control M. And out of all these things, what do you think is the first one that you would be your go-to or a recommendation?
The first thing I would look at is in my view is greenhouse gases. Because I think if you start with your data centers and your facilities environments, you've already got that information in your stack, right? And you can use your capacity tools to right size, right scale, and potentially shift to the cloud to do that.
Yeah, wonderful. Well, as we're talking about this too, I think something that's really important is the actual software you use to capture this information, right? And so that's where Srini and his team come in, because they build so many of our products. And I think a really important thing to take into account is how those products are built. And so, Srini, I'd love to hear about your approach to how we're building our products so that way they have a low impact to our clients around their own carbon footprint. So can you tell us a little bit about that and the journey that you're on with your group?
Sure, Wendy. Again, I lead the user experience, the security and quality ops for the products. And our goal is to deliver best-in-class user experience to everyone using our product. And we achieve this through design thinking and user-centered design. Now, in addition to embracing inclusive and gender-neutral UI design principles, we apply economic designs in our environment, right, and the design. So it is important in our community of local and global customers, partners, and end users, we elevate the consciousness towards sustainability in design. And when we develop products and services that shape the behavior and daily habits of millions of people, it is very important to understand how our products affect the environment. Responsible products and responsible innovations consider eco design and sustainability as a part of their goal. Again, in the last couple of days, I've met like a dozen customers, all the way ranging from old insurance companies to modern companies like the Googles and stuff. And one of the key differentiations which they have talked about with respect to our product is our focus on ESG. So it was great to hear from them, and the proof is in the pudding. Now, the reality is, like Des mentioned, on the products and services, we're already doing a lot with respect to sustainability. Through digital transformation and by enabling businesses to run their operations remotely, we are greatly reducing the carbon footprint. But when it comes to sustainability in software design, we follow Carl's Chrono Manifesto. According to the manifesto, our human society is fully sustainable when it's sustained in 3 dimensions: social, economic, and environmental. So our eco-design principles actually includes leveraging modern agile software methodologies where we emphasize on modular code and code reuse. For our cloud and SaaS offerings, we leverage Kubernetes and microservices architecture. Both these technology approaches focus on sustainability. Now, when it comes to cost of software ownership, it includes cost of development and cost of maintenance. And the cost of maintenance is typically larger than the cost of development, and it ranges from 2x to 100x the cost of development. So by automating, and if you look at that maintenance, it includes unit testing, it includes functional testing, it includes continuous integration and continuous deployment. So we focus on automating those test cases, and we focus on automating those continuous deployments, whereby we can achieve better sustainability. And when it comes to data load in pages, we are super focused on the amount of data which we retrieve and load it on the pages. This greatly reduces the data to be consumed by the pages, whereby improving the energy efficiency of the overall app, and which makes it much more greener. And when it comes to our DevOps environment, we leverage modern AI innovations. And there is a recent article which tells that sustainable AI can let organizations get closer to carbon neutrality. So lastly, I would say modern products should focus their energy in providing not only value for end users, but we need to focus on providing value for our environment. So that's pretty much it from my side. Thanks, Mary.
Yeah, well, that's pretty much it. Okay, those are all like really incredible things that you've just shared with us around how like we really are putting this intentionality into our products. And our developers in your group all go through this training, right? Around inclusive language and eco design.
Yeah, I can add some a little bit there, right? So we run periodic trainings for our designers and for our engineers, both in the context of inclusive design, eco design. And with respect to accessibility, which is done through our design system, we also run periodic training because the accessibility standards keep changing and evolving every couple of years.
Wonderful. So we've heard about like what we're hearing in the market. We've heard about some of our products and how they can help with your reporting and your ESG objectives. And then we've heard about how those products are actually made in the chain of sustainability. So with that, now we've got this end user using our products. Mark, can you tell us about how we're making this an accessible journey for everyone so the autonomous digital enterprise truly does include everyone?
Sure. So I'm going to be focused on talking about BMC's accessibility journey actually outside of our products. My colleague Srini, his organization is pretty far ahead and at the vanguard of accessibility. We sell products into many regulated industries that have a lot of requirements around this, very well documented. But one of the things that we lagged on and that a lot of companies struggle with is the areas outside of the product, the support systems, the public-facing website, all the information required to make someone successful using your product generally lags behind the products themselves. And really it's 4 steps to get up and running. And the first one is actually the most difficult one. which is committing to making things better. We're a big company. We like to do things that are flashy and splashy. We love to go to market and create what we call these brand moments. And there is a sense in a lot of people's minds that that is antithetical with having something that is accessible and equitable. And I'm here to tell you that's just not correct. But the first step, if you commit to making things better, if you're committed to making accessibility a priority, taking it seriously, you can create amazing experiences for your customers that are very inclusive in the way that they're deployed. And for BMC, that commitment really came from external pressure. We had customers coming to us saying, accessibility is important to us. We noticed that this is an area you're lagging behind. You need to make it better. And we listened to our customers, and that was really the catalyst for us to start taking accessibility very seriously in these other systems outside of our products. So once you make things better, the next step is evaluating where you are. Lots of free public tools out there on the internet to understand where the friction points are. And frankly, if you're an organization that has web developers on staff, they probably already know what the problems are. A lot of this is generational. As we're bringing on younger millennials and Gen Z engineers and developers, they think about these things. They're advocating for them. They probably know where the friction points are and what we should do. So it's about understanding where you are. And then if we go over to step 3, very simply, prioritizing the things that are going to make the biggest difference. And step 2 and 3 never stop. They're cyclical. You evaluate where you are. You add items to the roadmap that are going to make a big difference. You make those things happen, and then you evaluate where you are. Again, at BMC, we actually partnered with a technology vendor that provided an accessibility tool set on our public-facing website. So if you go to our public-facing website, bmc.com, if you scroll to the footer and click on the link that says accessibility tools, you'll see a tool set pop up that will compensate and change the website for a variety of different types of disabilities. Very cool, but that allowed us to get up to the standards that we needed to very quickly. And the fourth one is actually the second most hardest thing to do, which is make a commitment across your organization to just build accessibility into the way that you work going forward. And that's something that we're doing right now. We have a couple of programs underway where we're training people inside of our organization to fully understand and be experts in this. So you really need expertise. We're setting aside and building some training for every person that creates public-facing content inside of BMC. They will go through it so they understand why it's important and what the basic principles are. So we sort of build that thought process in at the beginning. And we're also building governance and rules around accessibility for any new public-facing application that goes live on the web, so that we will have accessible presence from the beginning and no longer have to retrofit what we're doing with those accessibility requirements on top of it. So that's where we are in our journey, and we're making progress every day. And it's actually really exciting for the team. The people that are involved in this are into it and excited about it.
I work here and I'm so excited. I am re-energized just in like this whole conversation that we're having around just the things that we're doing with sustainability, web accessibility, what we're hearing from our customers and how we're listening to our customers, and the work that the two of you have been doing both for like our products and our external facing websites. I think that everything from the inclusive language, from removing harmful language from all of our documentation and like all of our coding moving forward, to making it more accessible and making it more sustainable is just really exciting. And to your point, Mark, people want to do this work. It makes them feel like they work at a purpose-driven organization. So for everyone in the audience, thank you so much for joining us today. I encourage you to go to our resources tab, where we will have our sustainable IT blog. We will have best practices available in that blog that you can start to implement today, like some solutions you can implement today while you work on your own, like the example Mark gave, and some you can forecast out and roadmap more. And of course, if you want to talk to us more about how our products can help you on your journey in your ESG reporting and meeting your objectives, please reach out to Des or Craig, and they'd be more than happy to talk to you more about how to make that possibility a reality. Please go to our innovation hall, check out BMC Cares. We are working with the Zoological Society of London. So if you love animals, you can do some tagging with them. We've also done an accessibility project with them as well. And thank you so much for joining us here at BMC Exchange 2022. We hope that you enjoy the rest of your time here. Bye now.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.